I start all the recorders and everything, let me adjust some volumes here to make sure everything is working correctly and as it should. As you can see behind me, I am being joined by our director right here on set because we have some new services and software. And he appears to have left as usual. That's what he does. Hold it. Let me play the opening first.
30 seconds.
In your face, all over the place. We're online 24/7. 24/7. You're listening to the hottest internet station.
From beautiful Saline in southeastern Michigan.
Around the world at SunSkyMysteries.com.
This is the 2009 Top 10 Webcam in the World winner. This is SETV.
There we go. You got to keep up with all of the latest FCC rules and regulations and have your station identification there at the top of the show. Anyways, as I was saying, we have had some upgrades to our software, actually the entire server itself, the streaming server. We use a service, it's called Dacast, and they have upgraded all of their servers. We, of course, are streaming out of the server in Washington, D.C., even though we're located in southeastern Michigan. We are now broadcasting at a higher rate. So those of you that are watching the live stream should be seeing a much clearer image of the show, and consequently, me. Now, to bring you up to date on what is going on health-wise with me, I have had a new set of complications from the lung virus that just keeps on giving. And that is, my heart has decided to go from, say, 91 beats a minute down to 70 beats a minute in a split second, which is very disconcerting. This, of course, always happens when I happen to be talking, like I am right now, so I am hoping to precipitate one of these attacks tonight on the show, which is, by the way, a test show. If you'd like to see the show live, you can go to USSA Michigan. That's USSAMichigan.com to see the live stream. That is where we have all of our show notes that we use for the show. I, of course, have my blood pressure monitor right here, and I am wearing my heart monitor. Currently, my heart rate is approximately 77 to 80 beats per minute. And a couple of days ago, in case you don't know, we had a event from the sun that hit the upper atmosphere. I know what you're saying to yourselves. You're saying to yourselves, Bill, how could you possibly know that? Because nobody else knows it. Well, here's the thing. This wristwatch that I'm wearing right here, it's not really a wristwatch. It is a radio receiver. Not the Dick Tracy kind either. This is the kind of radio receiver that receives a signal from the heart monitor that I wear on my chest, which is right here, this black band that goes around my chest, right there. It transmits the signal from that heart monitor to the wristwatch. It's what runners use. I used this thing when I was running marathons. Well, the receiver is kind of sensitive. It's not a real high power broadcaster. That's radio that's inside the heart monitor. And I've noticed whenever we have one of those electromagnetic storms, this wristwatch doesn't receive the signal quite as good. It happens every single time, and over the past couple of days, it's gone cattywampus on me. So, at any rate, I believe that we have had an event from the sun. So, let's get on with tonight's stories. Tonight's show is going to be a brief show. We're testing the streaming to see if we drop any any frames in the video, and thus far we haven't. We are broadcasting. Hold on a second. We are broadcasting at 398 kilobits per second, which is amazing. So, let's get on with the show. Tonight, what I want to do, right off the bat, is make some friends and make some enemies. I'm pretty good at doing that. At any rate, let's go over to our first story. It's over here on in our show notes. The stupid, stinking UFO war rears its ugly head one more time. This is a sad and sick story that has been haunting me like my lung virus, and it is once more rearing its ugly, ugly head. This came to me through an email from an associate of mine, and it appears that this is the story that keeps on giving, and I'll explain here in a minute. This is from John Kettler Investigates. The UFO war now covers the entire Pacific. It's an exploding story. The UFO war explodes through the entire Pacific Ocean. Now it's a coalition war. The UFO war in the Pacific has now become a 5-nation coalition war through the Pacific Basin per super-sensitive terrestrial sources. And, of course, he's got a list of all of the different navies that are involved in this. The United States, the People's Liberation Army Navy, the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force, and the Republic of Korea are all blasting away at UFOs. Now, I should have said something about this at the time, but this story needs to die a slow, hard death at the hands of reality. There is far, far more important things to spend our time writing about. I want to show you a couple of photographs. This right here is a photograph of, hold on one second, there we go. This is a photograph of the CGN Arkansas. Hull number 41. CGN 41, the USS Arkansas. It is an older class destroyer. You can tell by the gun mounting on the foredeck. And this was taken during its shock test trials way back in, I believe, the mid-1970s. On the back of the ship there, you can see 2 trailers. They look like semi-trailers. That is the equipment that is used for measuring the shock wave off of the bow of the ship. If you look just behind the number 41, look just behind the number 41 there, on the front of the ship, and you can see a cable going towards this underwater explosion. What they did was they would detonate an explosive underwater to test the hull's resilience to shocks. That is called the shock test. And this is CGN 41, like I said. It was the keel was laid in 1977, and October of 1978 is when the ship was launched. It was commissioned in October of 1980. The shellback initiation was in May of 1981. There was another shellback initiation in later in May of 1981. They did the circumnavigation in June of 1984. It took part in Desert Shield. It was, now listen to this, it was decommissioned. In other words, junked. It's been cut up. It's gone. It no longer exists. It was decommissioned. Get this. 7 July of 1988. The ship is gone. It's been decommissioned. Now, the super secret sources that are talking about this major UFO war over there in the Pacific Ocean have sent this photograph right here. Now, the more astute among you will see that what we are seeing is a copy of the photograph that I just showed you, complete with the cable going to the explosives and the mysterious UFO under the water that's been added, along with another couple of ships. Now, the even more astute observer among you will see that in the bottom right-hand corner there is an aircraft carrier. In the left bottom corner there is a amphibious assault ship, and of course our friend the decommissioned CGN-41 USS Arkansas. They are all just cruising along there, and if you notice, they're all going to collide in about 30 seconds. So this story about this UFO war in the Pacific needs to be called out, and the people that are putting it out need to be told, you either show proof and not your super secret terrestrial sources, or BS. We're going to raise the BS flag on this one. Show us your sources. The UFO war in the Pacific does not exist. You want to talk about a real story? You talk about the story about how the Japanese and the Chinese are going after each other with their navies in the Pacific over a set of contested islands that could break out into a hot war. You talk about how we have a aircraft carrier group steaming into the area to protect Japan. You want to talk about something that's happening in the Pacific? That's what you talk about. Not the stupid fake UFO war. Bunch of idiots. That's why we call the show Surrounded by Idiots, and that's why we are the Michigan League of Fed Up Citizens, because, well, we're fed up with this. Now, you go to the website, USSAMichigan.com. We have all the links to all the photographs, all the information about the Arkansas, images of the ship and everything that will prove that this is fake. Now, let's go on to our second story, shall we? Because it's the season of giving. Not quite Christmas, it's not quite Halloween, although I expect that all of the Christmas displays will be up at your local big box store in the near future. But check this out. It's a season of giving, you see. And here we are. Democratic congressman's son resigns after talking to an undercover reporter who would have thunk it. This comes to us from CNSnews.com. It's one of our favorite websites. These guys are great at reporting. One day after Representative Jim Moran, a Virginia Democrat, asked Attorney General Eric Holder to investigate voter registration fraud involving a company linked to Republicans, the congressman's own son has been caught in a voter fraud-related scandal. Patrick Moran resigned from his father's campaign Wednesday after an undercover video showed him talking with an undercover reporter after the reporter approached him in a public place to talk about the reporter's alleged plan to cast ballots in the names of 100 voters who are registered to vote but rarely do so. So what happened is the congressman's son laid out how to do it. You make yourself up some fake electric bills, some utility bills, bunch of other fake stuff, and you make it look as good as possible, and you go and vote. And if you're caught, the Democrat attorneys will back you fully in a court of law. So, there you go. That's story number one. I'm going to whip through these tonight because this is basically a test show, and I'm trying to make my throat sore so that I have one of my loopy episodes and pass out so I can check my heart rate and my blood pressure. The Texas Attorney General tells election monitors to butt out. Again, this comes to us from CNS News. The head of an international body that will monitor the U.S. elections next month protested to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton Wednesday after the Texas Attorney General warned that any international observer who approaches a polling station risks criminal prosecution. The head of the little observation team said, "The threat of sanctions is unacceptable. Hillary, please help us. Oh, they're being so mean to us down in Texas. I don't like those guys," said Janez Limerana. Again, you got these people that can't have a pronounceable name just to screw with me. The Slovenian diplomat who heads the Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights, otherwise known as ODIHR, a part of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. Apparently they haven't noticed that the United States is not part of Europe. Lenarak was responding to a letter sent by Texas Attorney General Greg Abbott to the ODIHR Tuesday, informing it that groups and individuals from outside the United States are not allowed to influence or interfere with the election process in Texas. The OSCE's representatives are not authorized by Texas law to enter a polling place, Abbott wrote. It may be a criminal offense for the OSCE representatives to maintain a presence within 100 feet of a polling place's entrance. Failure to comply with these requirements could subject the OSCE's representatives to criminal prosecution for violating state law. Apparently, they're not screwing around in Texas, which can only mean one thing. Texas is going to get sued by the federal government for not allowing the international team of election observers to go into the polling place, look over people's shoulders, see what they're doing. And on to our next story. Voters in North Carolina cast vote for Romney, and it comes up Obama on the voting machine. In our next story, we're wondering where the high and mighty international voter fraud gang of Texas criminals is at in North Carolina. Greensboro, North Carolina, the presidential election is just around the corner, and voting issues have already become a problem in Guilford County. Because remember, a lot of places have early voting. That's where the term vote early, vote often comes from. On Monday, that's from Chicago, by the way, the home of dishonest politics, Chicago, Illinois. On Monday, several voters complained that their electronic ballot machine cast the wrong vote. All the complaints were made by people who voted at the Burr Mill Park polling location. One of the voters, Cher Cormoales, says she cast her ballot for Governor Mitt Romney, but every time she entered her vote, the machine defaulted to President Obama. I was so upset that this could happen. Unbelievable. The Guilford County Board of Elections Director, George Gilbert, says the problem arises every election. It can be resolved after the machine is recalibrated by poll workers. I suspect it really was recalibrated. And our next story from the same publication, more voting problems reported in Jamestown and Pleasant Garden. Forrest Stum says she voted at Pleasant Garden Town Hall location. Her vote for Mitt Romney, her vote was for Mitt Romney, but the machine cast a vote for Barack Obama. Unbelievable. The links, of course, are at our site on the show archives, USSAMichigan.com. And here is another story. Why did the Bunder's Bank secretly withdraw 2/3 of its London gold? That story comes to us from ZeroHedge.com. That's ZeroHedge.com. I love these guys. And there's a story. It was submitted by Tyler Durden on 10/24 of 2012. It appears that there may be some typos in there, so take it for what you will. 2 days ago, we reported that the German Court of Auditors demanded that the German Central Bank the Bunders Bank, verify and audits official gold holding consisting of 3,396 tons held mostly offshore, namely New York, London, and Paris, at least according to official documents. It also called for repatriation of 150 tons in the next 3 years to perform a quality inspection of the gold. Today, in a surprising development, via the Telegraph, we learned that none other than the same Bunders Bank, which is causing endless nightmares for all the other broke European nations due to its insistence for sound money, decided to voluntarily pull 2/3 of its gold holdings held by the Bank of England. This is about as idiotic, this entire story, folks, this entire story is about as idiotic as the Fed canceling its reporting of M3 because the cost of collecting the data outweigh the benefits. That's how stupid it is. Yet, what is left unsaid is that the Bank of Germany did nothing wrong. It simply demanded reclamation of what rightfully belongs to it and the country of Germany. We decided to take our gold out of your bank. They made a withdrawal. They closed their account. Big deal. Now here is the crux of the issue. And this is pretty important to pay attention to. In a globalized system in which every sovereign is increasingly subjugated to the credit-creating power of the globalized whole, one must leave all thoughts of sovereign independence at the door and embrace the New World Order. That's where the New World Order is. Got it? It's in the banking system. After all, the only way that the globalized system can create the shadow cloud of infinite reprobable liabilities in which we all currently float as light as a binary feather, which permits instantaneous capital flows and monetary fungibles, and which guarantees that there will be no sovereign bond issue failure as long as nobody dares defect from the system in which all collateral is cross-pledged and ultra-rehypothecated for the greater good. That's directly from the Zero Hedge article. That is, of course, until the bank secretly defected. And now, here's the thing that I want to know. Here is my commentary on this. According to everybody that's upset about it, apparently, when a bank withdraws its gold from some other bank, they should hold a big news conference and tell everyone that they're doing it. Better yet, why not give out the license plate number of the trucks that are transporting it? Because everybody's up in arms because they did it secretly and didn't tell anybody. They didn't make a big stink about it so that the world could come together and negotiate a peaceful ending to this crisis that doesn't exist once again. Unbelievable. In our next story, the FBI is investigating fake polling letters. And this is our final story. Our final story of the night comes right from the files of the international voter fraud whatsis, who apparently are at some resort or something. And get this, nobody would have known if the criminal gang of idiots didn't send one of these letters to the Republican chair in Florida. Now, this isn't the international whatsis committee that sent this. This is somebody else that is attempting to intimidate. Attempting to intimidate a certain class of residents of the state of Florida. And I would bet that this is happening in other states. And people are not coming forward. So what people need to do is they need to come forward to this type of information. Apparently, this is only being sent to white voters. It's the only people that it's being sent to is white voters. Let's read the story, shall we? This comes to us from the Mail Online. That's the Mail Online over there in jolly old England, or the UK as they like to be called these days. The FBI to investigate fake polling letters aimed at intimidating Florida voters after Republican Party chair receives one in the mail. The FBI is joining an investigation into bogus letters sent to many Florida residents, including the Republican Party of Florida chair, that raises questions about their eligibility to vote. The FBI will focus on the letters received by voters in 18 counties in central and southwest Florida. Pardon me for just a minute. My throat is starting to get sore, which is what I was after. They raise questions about the voters' citizenship and appear to intended to intimidate people. The officials on Monday said voters who had received the letters so far are white, registered Republicans who consistently vote in elections. On Tuesday, the state of Florida said there have been reports of more than 20 counties where voters had received fraudulent letters impersonating supervisors of elections. And get this, they're all postmarked in Seattle, not Florida. None of them at all come from anybody in Florida. This is a pure attempt at intimidating voters. This is beyond the pale, and one has to ask, where's the International Committee of Election Observers on this story? Haven't heard anything from them other than them whining about somebody not wanting them to wander around in their polling place, looking over people's shoulders with their blue UN helmets, making sure that people aren't getting intimidated, when in fact people are being intimidated not to vote. This is the type of thing that happens in third world countries. You want to pull that kind of crap, get out of the United States and take your asses someplace where they appreciate that, where they'll stone you or cut your head off or something, or, better yet, hang you. And that's tonight's episode of Surrounded by Idiots and the Michigan League of Fed Up Citizens. My name is Bill Zam. Be sure to join us for our next show. Hopefully, this streamed adequately. Have a good night.